us because our first EP is available for sale. It's a 4-track EP and it's called I Keep On Walking, and this is the title track.
Like a tale that grew in the telling, because initially it was we should put something out. We already had tracks that people could listen to on all the various internet portals that you have, but Charlie was especially keen that we do an EP of some description, and so we started talking about what we might do, and we'd worked on a lot of songs for the record, and we both really liked I Keep On Walking, but at that stage it had been kind of just put to one side, I think, not like sidelined in the sense that we weren't coming back to it, but we
hadn't started recording it.
Yeah.
You know, it was still in demo form. And we thought, let's choose something that we haven't started working on. And it seemed the most obvious one. I definitely had a vision for what I wanted it to be, how I wanted it to feel as a piece of music. And you know, we hadn't achieved that on the demo. I was thinking, you know, let's start from scratch and really work on it. And we did. We spent a lot of time on it.
I Keep On Walking was inspired by a story I was told by somebody, which was the story of how he met his boyfriend. Apparently he'd met him when they were both on concurrent walking holidays and they were both staying at the same youth hostel. The only problem was that the boyfriend-to-be was at the youth hostel with his then girlfriend, so she obviously got dumped pretty early on in the proceedings.
And so you left her, you took me home, made room for my suits and boots beside your own.
And that's exactly what happens in the song. By halfway through the first verse, she has been, you know, pushed out of the limelight and isn't mentioned again. And every time we perform it, even when we were rehearsing, I'd always think, I feel a bit guilty that she's not really getting a chance to have her say. She just gets kind of pushed out of the equation quite early on, and I'd like to maybe write something from her perspective. So when we actually came to doing the EP, we said, well, it'd be interesting, let's do that. So that's when we wrote a song called The Sleeper.
She pushed him away after he'd struggled to explain. She couldn't bear his touch again.
It was quite an interesting thing for me to get my teeth into lyrically as well, because I do address some of my own feelings and fears and I Keep On Walking, whereas in The Sleeper it was obviously a mindset that I hadn't ever really considered, so I had to sort of think quite carefully about how to express it properly, and I think in the end I did a pretty good job, but it was good to sort of tax myself in that way.
Like a sleeper who's broken cover, there's a man who would be his lover.
And once we had those two songs together, it was then Richard who said, well, maybe there's room for another song here.
This is the truth, or as close as it gets.
The idea for the EP was going to be I Keep On Walking, 2 brand new tracks, and then the 4th track was going to be, originally it was going to be either, well, a cover, but we decided to abandon that, and we wanted to do a reworked version of the song that we had already written. We had a gap for a 3rd song, and I thought to myself, this is about a love triangle, you know. So what about the 3rd person, you know? And I remember saying that to you, and
I thought
immediately
that was a great idea.
Sort of like, you know, got inspired by that, and we wrote, went and wrote The Scruff of the Neck.
I was the same somehow as I am now.
I think it's my favourite track on the EP, to be honest, The Scruff of the Neck. But we didn't think too hard about it really. We just sort of put down the nice strings and the acoustic guitar, and it's, you know, it was never going to be a kind of head scratcher, that one. And I think it's, you know, it worked out really well.
By the scruff of the neck.
And all 3 songs kind of complemented each other really, really well, and the fact that the other two were written and tailored to go along with I Keep On Walking. That's quite nice as well, because the EP as a form kind of began to die, I think, in the probably the late 90s when they changed the chart rules about how many songs you could have on a CD single, and it became 3 rather than 4, and there was a limit on, you know, how many minutes you're allowed to have. I mean, I'm sure it probably made your job a lot easier at the time because you had to write 33% less B-sides, which could only have been good news. But as a listener, you know, there was that period of getting 4-track 12 inches or 4-track CDs when it was a really important thing, and it would feel like something important, as opposed to quite often later on it would become the single and a B-side and a remix they'd had commissioned off whoever was cool in Hoxton that week. It was nice to be able to think a bit broader than that for what we were doing. And then the 4th track is a reworking of Heaven Is Here.
Yeah, we just decided we wanted to, you know, it's one of my favourite songs that we've done, and it's very energetic when we play it live, and the recorded version is very sort of deliberately upbeat. And we just wanted to do a slightly more kind of open, sort of formless version of it, with you know, long drawn out chords and quite acoustic and lots of reverb, and I think it turns out really good, and I haven't decided which version I prefer yet. It's kind of one day it's one version, the next day it's the other one. So
I like the fact it's the same emotional state expressed in 2 quite different moods, which I think is quite satisfying.
The biggest difference between the two is vocally, because it's delivered in a much more well, how would you say, the quiet version?
Desperate.
Yeah.
You hold my hand, somehow you understand and brush aside all of my transgressions where our knees divide. There are no secrets, so there's no lies, yet I'm forgiven. You take my sins and you give me heaven. Precious your love to me. Here, heaven is here. Why won't it do for me? Here, heaven is here.
And I was really pleased with what we came up with, and it's kind of nice because it didn't feel like.
But it wasn't just like an acoustic version, because that's an old trick that bands have been using for years, and there's something so indie about acoustic version, you know. When somebody covers a song of yours, or if you hear a cover of a classic song, you hope that they will do something different with it. They're not going to try and do a carbon copy of it or a kind of modern version of it. You hope that they'll take the spirit of the song and change it into something else that communicates something slightly different. So, and I think we did that. We covered our own song, and we covered it well.
And it's not made explicit on the EP packaging or anything that the 3 songs are interlinked. You know, we obviously talked about it in our press releases, and we're talking about it here and all that sort of stuff. But as a listener coming to it cold, you might have to work a little harder than that to actually get that feeling from it. So it's not presented to you as a kind of, this is how you have to listen. And people will put their own interpretations on it anyway. So I don't worry.
I just think it's well, the thing that I'm proud of is not kind of that there is a kind of theme running through it, and there's a kind of point to it. And it's a kind of entity in itself, as all the songs together, and that sounds really pretentious. But the other end of the scale is, here's some stuff we've been working on, chuck it out there. And I didn't want us to do that for the first release.